I don't really know how to answer
Candace
that.
Owens series for Candace Owens, part
it's a puzzlement to me.
96. I think it has 3 views or something like that on there.
Chance and situation, but some of it isn't. And I mean, I emerged into broad public consciousness as a consequence of getting caught up in a political battle. And although I wasn't particularly political before that, and I didn't really think of what I was doing as a political move. And I think it happened when it happened, and that was the free speech issue with Bill C-16 in Canada, where I was objecting to my federal government's insistence that they had the right to tell me what words I had to use. And I didn't think that they did have that right. And that was a hot political topic. And so that became very, very notorious, let's say. But at the same time, in the background, I had been building a presence on the web. I had 100 hours or so of lectures uploaded already at that point because I was playing with YouTube. And I had also worked with a television station in Ontario. They had filmed some of my classes, which was not a standard thing to have done. And I think what happened was that people came to see what I was up to on YouTube because of the political controversy, but they stayed because of the content. And then shortly after that, I had a book published. And so it was like a perfect storm in some sense. But the fact that I had already uploaded a tremendous amount of content to YouTube was the reason that I wasn't just around for 15 minutes during the political controversy. And then the next thing that happened was a series of interviews that became rather infamous or famous, depending on how you look at it. And they also had a strange political element that caught the public's imagination. That was particularly true of the interview I did with Kathy Newman, because it was so preposterous. The whole phenomenon, to use the word you used, was so preposterous. The interview was so absurd. It was so palpably ridiculous that, well, it couldn't be believed. It was surreal. And then since then, my whole life has just been one surreal event after another since then. So that's as good an account as I could give for it. I mean, my lectures at Harvard and the University of Toronto were extremely popular with students. I mean, the reason that my Maps of Meaning course was turned into a 13-part series by this small Ontario television station, TV Ontario, was because the typical student comment on the post-course evaluations was, and I'm not making this up, this was 95% of the student comments over a 20-year period were the same. All the students said, this course changed the way I looked at absolutely everything. And so that was lurking in the background, and that's definitely part of what's driving this continued notoriety, let's say, or fame, popularity. I'm not sure how to characterize it.
As a matter of fact,
it's not just the political though, is it? It's also a personal thing for many people, and you've helped with your book and through your lectures millions of people around the world. I'm sure you've seen letters and things like that from, the most amazing, most inspirational story, right?
Well, it's only political, I would say, in some sense, because what constitutes the political has become far too broad a category in our society. And so I'm speaking to individuals. When I started working on my first book, on Maps of Meaning, I was trying to solve a problem. And the problem was, it was the problem of the Auschwitz Guard, I suppose. How could you be like that? And the problem I was addressing was, how could I be like that? And then understanding that, let's say, then what could be done about it so it was less likely to occur? And my conclusion from that was, well, it was a conclusion that was mostly psychological and aimed at the individuals. It's necessary for us to recognize our capacity for evil, to deeply recognize that, and to become better people. We're too powerful to not be better. And that's political in some sense in our climate, because the discussion about the proper level of analysis for political conversation, for public conversation, has become political. Should it be the group? Should it be the individual? Well, I think, as far as I'm concerned about the individual, and for people who are politicizing based on group identity, that's a political statement. But I don't think it is, because the political isn't everything. So I don't think it's a political statement. It's deeper than a political statement. And look, you asked me a question. You asked me why I'm so well known, I suppose, or popular. I don't know what word to use. Why do you think it is? I mean, you wanted to interview me. What the hell do you think's going on?
Well, listen, I've got personal. I don't like to use kind of personal experience in an argument, but I think it's interesting. I've read your books, and I've found you so interesting as a sort of young white man, that sort of cliched thing. And I think that you just speak to so many people these days who feel nihilistic, who, as I said earlier, don't have meaning or don't feel that they have purpose in their lives. And you must know that you have spoken to millions of people and changed many, many people's lives. And I do want to talk about this phenomenon, and you are a phenomenon, if I may say, because I want to ask whether you feel that there's a danger in that there's a danger that people listen to you.
Yes, there's a terrible danger. There's terrible danger.
Well, absolutely, because the point is people might...
All sorts of terrible danger.
Well,
Many of them.
Let me describe one of them.
Sure.
People may listen to you. These are young people forming their opinions about the world. They may listen to you uncritically, and they may view you as a sort of idol. So do you worry that there may become a sort of Jordan Peterson cult, as it were?
I can't say that I've had that as a specific worry, because I would have to really participate in that for it to really happen, and I don't want that to happen, and I know why I don't want it to happen, and I've known for a long time. I read this paper by Carl Jung years ago called The Relations Between the Ego and the Unconscious, and he talked about exactly this phenomenon, and he wrote extremely lucidly and carefully about the danger of over-identifying with, let's say, religious ideas. So people come and listen to me lecture, and so then the question is, well, who are they listening to? Well, in some sense, they're listening to me because there I am. But in some sense, they're not. I'm the embodiment of a set of ideas, just as we all are. We're all embodiments of sets of ideas, and those ideas aren't mine. They're the collective ideas of the human race in some sense, and to the degree that I can articulate them properly for this time and place, to the degree that I can be wise in my generation.
Okay, so what am I at? Yes. You were worried, asking, and it sounds like you put it in your book, Jordan, about the camps and what kind of person, and trying to put yourself in that position, what kind of person would it take, and what kind of programming would someone have to deal with, or would I have to deal with, in order to do such cruel, evil, terrible things to singular people or groups of people and all this, right? That's the mirror neuron. That's the mirror neuron manipulator. If you have a mirror neuron, then you have to have a mirror neuron manipulator in order to do a job like that. You have to be able to lie to yourself using your brain, using all your false memory, that I call it false memory, you're going to call it intelligence. Your brain is just a memory capsule, so it's filled and programmed with, let's say, 3 generations of false information. Grandfather, father, son. By the time it gets to son, it's so deep that you can't even overlook. This is what I say earlier about your science. Science is bullshit. It's filled with lies everywhere. Terrible that we consider it true. The same thing you said about math, that math is true. No, it's not. It's all false. Not saying we shouldn't use it, not saying we can't use it, saying we should at least accept it for what it is. It's human concept. At least 0 and 1 through 9 is usable, doable. Don't have nothing to feel bad about using 1 through 9, and all other math and things like that. I don't see any reason to, at least yet, anyway. But 0's got to go, infinity's got to go. Same thing. Can't call it true though. If 0 is in it, and infinity is in it, then there's no sense in trying to call it true. Well, it's the same thing with what you're talking about here. That's how a guard would get by, and who makes the best guard for a place like that? Who's going to make the best assassin? The psychopath, the person that don't even possess a mirror neuron. You don't. If you, and that's why they get put in charge of those jobs. You can't compare oranges to apples, and you know that. We could look at a lot of other things that you do look into scientifically, which is a great idea. What were they eating, those people that were running those camps? What kind of diet were they on? Not to know how fat they were, but let's see, at least not to know how fat they were for the reasons why you would think about their health that way. But we don't include the electrical system at all. We don't know how controlled they really were. Look how easily we're all controlled, right? Here in the from Canada to the United States, even just an example, we are so easily controlled. I mean, Canadians are worse than America. America has this myth too, the same similar myth, a myth of freedom, because we have a constitution we claim and have all these constitutional rights, which is bullshit. We never had those rights. They were all false. They were only for some. They were not for everyone. Those rights, and even for those some, it was only if you played by their rules. So if you play by and what rules are we talking about? Well, the rules could be from any side because everyone's divided. So whatever rules, you have to play by this rules or that rules. And if you play by everyone's rules, then we allow you this. We allow you to pretend. We allow you to use your imagination to feel free. Even though you're working 40 to 80 hours a week, even though you don't make nearly as much as you should be making, in other cases, live in poverty, or whatever situation. So in other words, it was all fucking bullshit. And we only think, we only believe because we have this imagination, we believe that that was considered freedom. But is it really freedom if you're programmed to eat the poison, if you're programmed over several generations to take the bullshit, this kind of crap that you're complaining about now? Do we only complain about it when it hits us? Did we, you know, as far as white men, right? And you don't really say white, but mostly white men, because white men are being gone after right now. Anyways, try to so the mirror neuron and the mirror neuron manipulator. We keep going. I want to keep going back to this. When you think about over the years to get canine from 6 canine 10,000 years ago, we supposedly had 1 canine 10,000 years ago. Then they came across 6: the dingo, the wolf, the coyote, and there was one little one from 10,000 years supposedly ago in India, I believe it was. So you had this 1 canine, then up to 6 canine, all over the earth supposedly. So 6 canine on the earth as of, let's say, 8,000 years ago. Because there was only 1 canine known as of 10,000 years ago. I believe that was the story. And so then we were up to 6. Today, I want to say 50,000, but it could have been 500,000. Maybe it's 50,000. So let's say 50,000 strains, different strains, breeds of dog. Now that's not purebred, but even purebreds, they're now in the thousands of breeds of purebred dogs. Yeah, so I think it's like thousands, yeah, and then it goes up to 50,000. Am I exaggerating that? All right, I don't know if I'm exaggerating that, so let me change that to 5,000. You can fact check it, but maybe it's 5,000 strains that we're up to. Either way, it was impressive to me that over any amount of time that human beings were able to, because it was humans that did this. It would have been a human to bring one dog to the other side of the earth and mate it with another dog. That's still not the impressive part to me. The impressive part to me was How do these farmers, these people of the time, how did they bypass their mirror neuron in the case of the canine and breeding the canine to all these other breeds of canine over the years, right? Because you got to take, like, let's say this really big, aggressive dog, like let's say even a wolf, right? And now you're going to be mating it, breeding it with a small little toy poodle from France, let's say, right? And we're not going back 8,000 years to do this. We're only going back, a couple thousand years, 1,000 years. It was already going on, but it just went on and on and on and on. And then over the last 1,000 years, it's gotten even worse. So I don't know if I remember looking up when I was writing the book on this. I don't remember what the numbers jumped like in the last 500 years or whatever. I would imagine they jumped up a lot higher because breeding dogs got more and more important for as commodities, as animals were now being sold as a commodity, as a form of entertainment, more or less, rather than being sold and produced as a need for watching the sheep, let's say, or keeping an eye on the backyard or the house from rodents or things of that nature, or pulling a sled, or all these other reasons that we breeded dogs to these different things. But the amazing part is these people had to either, number one, bypass their mirror neuron. They had to say, as they're listening to this poor little poodle be raped, viciously raped. I mean, you got the noise is coming out of that barn when the poodle's being raped by a wolf. It must be excruciating to listen to and have to deal with. And this has to happen over and over and over again to get the result you want in the breeding. You're going to be talking about disformed and disfigured canines for a certain amount of them. You're going to be talking about brain dead. All the physical features are all okay, but their brains are not properly developed, and you're going to have to try to breed it up with another dog a little bit different before you can put it back in the room again with the wolf again, or with another larger dog or whatever, So that means humans were already bypassing their mirror neuron in order to do a job like that. You had to. And how do you bypass a mirror neuron? Lies. That's that simple. It's that simple. You have to use lies. You have to use your imagination and lie and say there's a reason. Sometimes you can make up a religious reason. So you're doing it for the good. You're doing it for the good of mankind to make this wolf rape and pillage this fucking poodle village, right? Just like we do all other terrible things that we do. We justify them with lies. We use lies in order to bypass that mirror neuron because we have a built-in instinct to do the right thing. We have a built-in instinct to not take more from life than what we need for any reasons. It's that cut and dry. It really is. That mirror neuron tells you do not take more from life than what you need, and we constantly go against it. So the only way to go against it is to lie to yourself. So we have to lie to ourselves. That we're helped by lying to ourselves. Our parents help us lie to ourselves. Our teachers and our friends and our family help us lie to ourselves so that we can get through all of the terrible, terrible things that we do on every side, on the conservative side, Republican side, straight side, gay side, black side, white side, all sides, because we all have positive and negative in us. So we all can go positive or negative. We should be able to anyway. Then we get to the psychopaths. The psychopaths do not possess a mirror neuron. They make the best people for doing shit like that, for doing those kind of jobs. They're the ones that you want in war with you if you're going to war, right? Because that's the guy that's not going to think twice about blowing away 20 people because he had a suspicion that one of them had a cannon, right? And we would all, hey, listen, we would have been dead. You didn't have the balls to shoot. Well, of course I didn't have the balls to shoot. I see 4 kids, 3 women, and they're all dressed like they're going to church. I didn't think that there would be anybody in there with a fucking gun. And then his instincts, because he has no conscience, he don't even want to take the chance. So sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. You walk over to the crowd, you say, Okay, we just killed 15 fucking people here. Did we do it for any reason or no reason, or what was the reason? So you start looking around. Who had the gun? See who had the weapon? Who had the cannon? Who had whatever? Nobody had nothing, boss. Okay, well, who maybe a bomb? Is someone carrying a bomb in this crowd? No. Well, that means you just wiped out all these people for nothing then. So what you had a suspicion, so you wiped them out. But then it could happen the other way, where you could take out the whole crowd and then you walk over and you say, holy shit, look at it, he's got a bomb strapped to his leg. He would have walked over and he would have taken the whole fucking platoon out, right? So then you're thankful for that person who does not have a mirror neuron, that they don't even have to think twice about it, they'll just do it, right? So it could go either way as far as these people go. If you have a bad idea, you have a mirror neuron and you can't carry it out yourself, then you would lie to yourself and say, oh no, I'm doing this for the good of the people. So, well, wait a minute, you got a dungeon set up downstairs and you're stretching people and cutting them up and you're dropping rocks on their heads, waterboarding them, all these. That's a good thing? What the fuck you talking about, king or emperor or whoever the hell's assigning people this shit, right? So the people with a mirror neuron don't usually make it to the top of the run. It was usually the psychopaths that were making it to the top. All right, and that same thing I was trying to explain in the Candace Owens series goes for other ways of killing ourselves and each other and our children and everything else that nobody thinks about. Nobody wants to think about. Jordan, I hope you go look at this. I hope you go see things for what they are, because you can say the same thing that we're talking about with this war and the Nazis and all the shit that you were talking about. You were interested in how they could get their heads around doing such evil things. It's all in how you look at it, isn't it? Because if you really know the truth about us controlling the weather, right? And then you really put all that together. I can't talk about it because my videos will get deleted. But think about it. Think about it. Okay? If you know and you go and look at what it is I'm showing you, and you end up knowing the truth, then you're going to understand. You're going to understand how bad it is. So how do you get people to do shit like that? How do you get people to do such twisted, evil, terrible things? And then how do you get people like Jordan Peterson to go out and speak on behalf of it, of doing those terrible, horrible things? Let's say, for example, I'll ask you in the form of a question. Maybe they can get away with it. Okay, if you mixed aluminum, strontium, barium, lithium oxide carbons along with other carbons and dumped them out of jets, and for a time you just put them up in stacks for a good period of time of history, and you had other ways, smelting was another way, and you could put these heavy metals and minerals and along with other heavy metals and minerals up into the atmosphere, and you learn over time some old ancient technology that we were now being that was now being hidden from us. We were being told that it was a god that was controlling all of this, right? It was God, it's nature, it's out of the human control. But yet you've learned that, oh my God, we actually can control all of this by doing these simple things, right? And it gets simpler and simpler. And matter of fact, we don't even have to pay for it. These zombies will pay for their own death. They will pay for their own. We're going to shrink their death rate from 300 to 600 years that they're living. We're going to shrink it down to 30 to 60 years tops. We don't want them living any more than that. We're going to use them up for what they got. If they want to work hard and create energy for us and let us bask in their stupidity, I'm sorry, their intelligence, we're going to be able to bask in all their inventions. Oh, they invented electricity. Oh my God, fuck me, man. The electricity's all around us. The electricity's free for the taking. But yet, no, we're gonna make it go pole to pole. We're gonna use high voltage electricity for no other reason other than it's more expensive to use, more expensive to create, makes absolutely no sense. But yet we're gonna call it a great technology. And look at how far we've come and all. It's all backwards, man. It's backwards. It's upside down. Doesn't mean you go back to the Stone Age. It means you go further past what we call the Stone Age. Go even further past that, because the Stone Age even happened after one of the resets. So after one of the resets, when we were already so fucking dumbed down that when we came back from it, we came straight into all these false religions that were based on energy and had little bits and pieces of truth sparkling down through them, but they called them angels rather than energies, right? They didn't point out their triangular shape and their triangular definitions that we can all see for ourselves. Nobody said that. No, they said if you see that, then that means you're insane, you're crazy. You can't be a part of any of the systems. I'll mention this too before this video ends. You guys were talking earlier about getting bombarded by the press and getting bombarded by all these fucking fake ass false motherfuckers that are out there, because they're all liars, right? So just to do you a favor, I would more along the lines go with the conservative side of things if I had no choice. If I have no choice, which it seems like I don't, and my only choices right now in my life are I either watch the whole entire system, the 7.8 billion zombies are never going to wake up. They're not going to listen, certainly not to me. So therefore, my one option is just to stay calm, sit back, and watch it all unfold in the way that it's unfolding, unfortunately. Or I could join a side, a conservative side, a liberal douche side. If I had that choice, then I would go with the conservative side, thinking that there's better hope for it, and also they're more susceptible to the reality that I'm trying to share with you. The liberal douchebag side, no fucking way, man. They ain't coming nowhere near any of the things I'm telling you. I think that it would be the conservatives' mindset, that type of personality that would more or less. But as far as putting capitalism on top of conservatism, it's a little bit different of a story. Capitalism is bad. It really is. It's just as bad as all the other ones. I don't even see it any different than communism, for shit's sakes. So Marxists, you can rank out the Marxism, the Marxists rather, because I know you do. I know you don't like that. And I've been learning a little bit about them. And I also liked them for about 3-4 days when I heard a few guys that were good talkers and I heard what they had to say. And I liked the sounds of it. But then as I kept listening on and on and on, I'm like, this ain't much better than really capitalism either, really. So they're all the same. They all got different benefits to them, but they all keep us enslaved. Again, I'll tell you that. The only thing I would say that better about conservatism is that they're better liars, they're better false flaggers, they're better at stroking egos. They don't just tell you it's got to be this way. They trick you into it, you wanting it to be that way. They lie to you, lie after lie, in order to do that. But at least they're stroking something. Stroking in your ego is better than not getting stroked at all, because that's what the other side, the left, does. The left doesn't stroke at all. They just say, this is the way it is. And you're like, that doesn't make no fucking sense. There's no room for argument. There's no room for debate. Well, yeah, there is, because we can see the reality for ourselves. So if we can all see the reality, I mean, you're welcome to go look. Oh, I'm not looking at nothing. I don't know, I'm fucking looking at nothing. I already know it all, because, I seen it on Fox, or I seen it on CNN, or I seen it on whatever channel I seen it on. Seen it in a movie, read it in a book. It's fucked up. Anyways, again, I don't remember what the hell I was talking about, so let's go back to these guys.
To a 13-part series by this small Ontario television station, TV Ontario, was because the typical student comment on the post-course evaluations was, and I'm not making this up, this was 95% of the student comments over a 20-year period were the same. All the students said, this course changed the way I looked at absolutely everything. And so that was lurking in the background, and that's definitely part of what's driving this continued notoriety, let's say, or fame, popularity. I'm not sure how to characterize it.
It's not just the political though, is it? It's also a personal thing for many people, and you've helped with your book and through your lectures, millions of people around the world. I'm sure you've seen letters and things like that from, you know, the most amazing, most inspirational story, right?
Well, it's only political, I would say, in some sense, because what constitutes the political has become far too broad a category in our society. And so I'm speaking to individuals. When I started working on my first book, on Maps of Meaning, I was trying to solve a problem. And the problem was, it was the problem of the Auschwitz Guard, I suppose. How could you be like that? And the problem I was addressing was, how could I be like that? And then what, understanding that, let's say, then what could be done about it so it was less likely to occur? And my conclusion from that was, well, it was a conclusion that was mostly psychological and aimed at the individuals. Like, it's necessary for us to recognize our capacity for evil, to deeply recognize that, and to become better people. We're too powerful to not be better. And that's political in some sense in our climate, because the discussion about the proper level of analysis for political conversation, for public conversation, has become political. Should it be the group? Should it be the individual? Well, I think, as far as I'm concerned about the individual, and for people who are politicizing based on group identity, that's a political statement. But I don't think it is, because the political isn't everything. So I don't think it's a political statement. It's deeper than a political statement. And look, you asked me a question. You know, you asked me why I'm so well known, I suppose, or popular. I don't know what word to use. Why do you think it is? I mean, you wanted to interview me. What the hell do you think's going on?
Well, listen, I've got personal, I don't like to use kind of personal experience in an argument, but I think it's interesting. I've read your books, and I found you so interesting as a sort of young white man, that sort of cliched thing. And I think that you just speak to so many people these days who feel nihilistic, who, as I said earlier, don't have meaning or don't feel that they have purpose in their lives. And you must know that you have spoken to millions of people and changed many, many people's lives. And I do want to talk about this phenomenon, and you are a phenomenon, if I may say, because I want to ask whether you feel that there's a danger in that there's a danger that people listen to you.
Yes, there's a terrible danger. There's terrible danger.
Well, absolutely, because the point is people might...
All sorts of terrible dangers. Many of them.
Let me describe one of them.
Sure.
People may listen to you. You know, these are young people forming their opinions about the world. They may listen to you uncritically, and they may view you as a sort of idol. So do you worry that there may become a sort of Jordan Peterson cult, as it were?
I can't say that I've had that as a specific worry, because I would have to really participate in that for it to really happen, and I don't want that to happen, and I know why I don't want it to happen, and I've known for a long time. I read this paper by Carl Jung years ago called The Relations Between the Ego and the Unconscious, and he talked about exactly this phenomenon, and he wrote extremely lucidly and carefully about the danger of over-identifying with, let's say, religious ideas. So people come and listen to me lecture, and so then the question is, well, who are they listening to? Well, in some sense, they're listening to me because there I am. But in some sense, they're not. I'm the embodiment of a set of ideas, just as we all are. We're all embodiments of sets of ideas, and those ideas aren't mine. They're the collective ideas of the human race in some sense, and to the degree that I can articulate them properly for this time and place, to the degree that I can be wise in my generation, a biblical phrase, a very astute biblical phrase, then I can
articulate them
I
properly,
can communicate
but not
those
truthfully.
ideas to myself and
That
to other
you're not
people.
able to do
but
yet.
I don't want to be mistaken for their source. I'm not their source, and I'm very aware of that, and I do what I can to make that clear to myself, and my family helps me out with that a lot. They understand the danger as well, and I mean, there's danger to me in this as well. I mean, I think I've been very ill for quite a long time, and
Take scissors,
it's
cut
not
up the
obvious
bag.
why, but I think one of the sources was that I
And then
just
everything will come out.
was overwhelmed by
you gotta
insight
cut each.
into
Then you gotta
misery.
cut each
So
flower.
many. I
Come
saw
bring
so
them back
many
down here
people
with the
that were
vase,
so,
and I'll show you how to do
well,
it.
grateful is part of it to me in the manner that I just described. But it's very affecting when that happens.